Hey, what's up guys, what's good? This is Nancy and today we are back with another tutorial. In this tutorial we'll be creating our first animation, our first text animation in After Effects CC. So without wasting much time, let's get into it. So when you open up After Effects CC, what you have to do is go to composition, you click on new composition, you name your composition, you give it a name, and from the preset here I'm choosing AGTV 1080. You can choose anyone from the drop down, but we're sticking to 1920 by 1080. Then the background color is set to white and the duration is set to 2 seconds. With all the settings, we click OK. So here is our document, our project. So we'll go to layer, we go to new, and I'm going to create a new solid. This is our background, so I'll be naming this BG, and the color, I'll set the color to like this bright yellow. This bright yellow, that's the color code. Then I click OK, and I'm done. So you can see this is our background. So the next thing is I'm going to select my horizontal type tool. Then I'll be using the font family Roboto and the font style, both italics. You can use any font you want. This is the font you'll be using for this tutorial. So I'm going to type Black Friday, and the paragraph is aligned to left. Then on the alignment, then if you can't find that, you go to Windows, make sure your align is checked. So I'm going to align horizontally and vertically to bring it in center. But as you can see, our anchor point is not in the center of our text because the paragraph is aligned to the left. So I'll select the band anchor point tool and I'll hold Ctrl double click to bring it back to the center. As you can see, everything is looking all good now. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to select my rectangle tool, and I'll make sure the fill is set to white and the stroke is disabled, none. I'll click OK. Now set the fill color to solid color. I'll click OK, and I'll double click to make sure the color is white. You can change to any color you want. So I'm going to click and I'm going to draw a line. I'm going to click and draw a line right about that point. Yeah. So as you can see, I'll select my selection tool. I'm going to align horizontally and I'm going to align vertically to bring it to the center. So I'm going to open the rectangle under the transform. I'm going to position. This is the X and this is the Y. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to shift on the X axis. So I'm going to bring that out right about that point. And as you can see, we have issue with our anchor point. Again, once you bring it to the center, select the pan behind anchor point, hit Ctrl on your keyboard and double click to bring it back to the center. As you can see, everything looks all set. So under the rotation, I want to make the line a little bit slant just to follow the pattern of the text. So I'm going to rotate it at about 6 degrees. As you can see, we now have a slant line following our text. So everything looks good now. So the next thing I'm going to do is what I want to do is I want to make the Black Friday text to move in from the left. So as you can see, this is our 1 second timeline. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to open the property of the Black Friday. I'll go to under the transform, I'll go to the position, I'll click on that stopwatch to create a keyframe. I'll click on it. As you can see, it has created a keyframe for me. Then I'm going to click and drag and I'll bring it there about 1 second. So with the position properties, so what I'm going to do is my time indicator is still on the start of the animation. So I'm going to bring the X property, I'm going to bring it out, as you can see. So we're using this line as a guide in which the text is going to slide in through. So as you can see, the text is going to slide in through that line. So that's good. So as you can see, that's the animation we've created there. So if I close it up and I make a quick preview, as you can see, we have a basic animation of our text flying in from the left to right. So we can now add a dynamic flow to the animation. I'll press U on my keyboard to bring out the keyframe. As you can see, this is just the basic standard keyframe we have. I'll select my selection tool and I'll drag over the 2 keyframes, and I'm going to go to keyframe assistance. I'm going to go to easy ease. As you can see, if I try and click on the graph editor, you see what we have. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to explain the type of graph we have, or the type of speed graph we have. First one we have here is ease in and ease out. As you can see, this speed graph eases in and it also eases out motion in a gentle progressive speed. Then the second one we have is the fast ease in and slow ease out. This speed graph eases in faster while it eases out slowly, and this is the graph we'll be focusing on in this tutorial. So the last one is slow ease in and the fast ease out. This speed graph is just the opposite of the previous one. It slowly eases in while it eases out faster. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the last keyframe by simply dragging over it. Then I'm going to bring the handle in to create that bend curve, and I'm going to select the other handle too. I'm going to adjust it and make sure I choose the graph type and option. I'll click on that and I'll make sure the edit speed graph is checked, so for you to be able to make this adjustment to your keyframes. So I'm going to click back the graph editor to hide that. So if we have a quick preview now, as you can see, it has added more fluid to the animation. It's now looking more, it's different from just the basic flying animation we had before. So the next thing, I'm going to select my shape layer 1. I'm going to rename it. I'm going to rename it to line, just to organize things. So I'm going to rename it to line. So when I'm done, what I'm going to do is I'm going to animate the line now. So I'll bring my time indicator to the beginning of the animation. Then I'm going to open the properties of the line. I'll go to the contents. Under the rectangle 1, I'm going to open it. Then I'm going to open the rectangle path. Then as you can see, this is the X and this is the Y property of the line. As you can see, the Y and the X. So I'm going to disable the constraint proportions. So with that, I'll be able to adjust individual parameters. So I'll click on the stopwatch again to add a keyframe. I'm going to bring it to about 1 second. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to reduce the value of the Y property. I'm going to bring it down to 0. So I'm going to close that, and I'm going to have a quick preview here. As you can see, we just have our basic, and let me shut the Black Friday layer so we'll see what's going on here. We just have a simple animation here, but we can add more fluid to the animation to make the animation more fluid. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to press U on my keyboard to bring out the keyframe. I'm going to select the 2 keyframe by dragging over it. Then I'll repeat what I did the other time. I'll go to easy ease. Then I'm going to enter the graph editor. I'll select the last keyframe and bring in the handle. I think that's for the first parameter. Then I'll click on the second handle just to bring it in a bit and make that gentle curve as I've explained in the graph the other time. So I'm going to do the same for the other keyframe too. So I'm going to bring it in. I'm going to bring it in right about that point. I'll click that just to hide it. So as you can see, if I try to preview, as you can see, we now have a different animation. The animation is now looking more fluid, more slick. So let me just use that word, slick. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to bring back my Black Friday text, and I'm going to have a quick preview here and adjust things appropriately. As you can see, I can still try and adjust where the start of the Black Friday, the animation of the Black Friday, so where the line is about protruding. So that's where I'm going to start my Black Friday animation. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move it out just like that. So let me have a quick preview again. As you can see, I think it's looking cool now. It's looking cool now. Looking cool now. Yeah, I think I'm okay with that. So the next thing I'm going to do now is to create the math. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to select my pen tool. I'm going to draw a shape. Click right about that point. Click there. No, let me try and adjust it. I won't do that by using Ctrl Z. I'm going to click just to create a basic rectangle here. Now make sure it's set to fill and the stroke is disabled. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hide that. I don't need that. So I'm going to disable the toggle max shape path visibility. So I'm going to rename this just to organize things. I'm going to rename it to map M8T. So what I'm going to do is I'll select my selection tool. I'll select the Black Friday and I'll go to window and I'll make sure effects and presets is checked. And I'm going to search for the effect called set math under the channels. So I'm going to double click. So it's going to apply the effect on our Black Friday text. Now make sure I'm taking math from layer math, the rectangle we just created. Now as you can see, it's hiding that our text. That means for us to be able to see our text, as you can see, is showing on the other side of the shape. So I'm going to invert the matte. As you can see now, it's now showing our text where we want our text to be revealed. So that's just this simple effect we're going to use to bring this animation to life. So I'm going to close that, and I'm going to make sure the source is set to source for this tutorial. So the next thing I'm going to do now is I'm going to preview the animation. As you can see, we now have a smooth and sleek animation with the matte working properly, as you can see. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select my Black Friday and my math. I'm going to right click and I'm going to pre-compose. So I'm going to move all attributes. I'll check that, and I'm going to rename the composition name to text and math, and I'll make sure move all attributes is checked, and I'll click OK. So I'm going to bring the text and math just below my line, as you can see. So everything is looking all nice now. So if I double click and I toggle this transparent grid, so what I can do now is I can change the text to anything I want. So I can just change it to black out. So as you can see, it has been updated here. So I can change the text to anything I want from the text and matte composition we just created now. So having a quick preview, as you can see, our animation is looking all sleek. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to select and hold for a while and select the ellipse tool. So what I'm going to do is I'll make sure the fill is set to none, and I'm going to make sure the stroke is set to solid color. I'll click OK, and I'll make sure the stroke width is 61 for now. So I'll go to the beginning of my animation. I'll go to layer, new shape layer to create a shape layer. Then I'll go to the center. I'll click. I will hold Ctrl and Shift just to make sure I'm creating a perfect ellipse which is coming from the center, which is being created from the center. So what I'm going to do now is I'll toggle the max shape visibility, and I'm going to select my selection tool. I'll open the content under the ellipse one. I'll go to stroke, and I'm going to add a keyframe at the beginning of my animation on the stroke width. I'll click the stopwatch to create a keyframe over that, and I'm going to click on the opacity tool just to create a keyframe on that. And I'm going to open the transform properties, and I'm going to create another keyframe on the scale. When I'm done, I'm going to close everything. I'll press U on my keyboard to bring all the keyframe we just added to our shape layer. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring the scale down to 0 at the beginning of our animation. So I'm going to bring our opacity down to 0 too. Then I'm going to move right about 20 frames. Then I'm going to bring my opacity to 100%, and I'm going to bring my scale to right about 100% for now. Then I think I still have to increase the scale until the shape is out of the frame. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to bring the stroke width to about 82. So if I select all my keyframes, I right click, I go to keyframe assistance, and I easy ease them, and I go to the speed graph. You can see we have a basic ease in and ease out graph. Then what I'm going to do now is I'm going to just have a quick preview by just dragging my time indicator. Okay, let me have a preview by just pressing the spacebar on my keyboard. So I think this is where I want the shape circle to burst out. So I'll select my shape, my circle layer, and I'm going to drag it out. I'm going to adjust appropriately. So I'm going to right click and rename, and I'm going to rename it to circle. So let me have a quick preview and let me see. I think the circle is being delayed a bit. So I think the circle is being delayed a bit. So I think I'm going to bring it back just a bit. Yes, I think it syncs well now. I think I'm okay with the animation. So our first animation is looking all nice and smooth. So the next thing is to add motion blur. I'm going to add motion blur to this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to check all our moving elements in our project. So as you can see, so I'll go back to my text and math and also add motion blur to the text. I don't need to add to the math because it's not visible. So I'll go back to my main comp and I'm going to have a final preview of my animation. As you can see, we now have motion blur in our animation, bringing more life to our animation. As you can see, looking all nice. So we successfully created our first text animation in After Effects. I think the animation is looking good. So I'll go back to my text and math and I can just change the text to back to Friday, Black Friday. And if I come back to my main comp, as you can see, it has been updated. So if I have a quick preview here, our animation is looking all nice and sleek. So we are done with the animation. So the next thing is to export this out as an MP4 file so you can preview it on your phone or on your laptop, on anything. So you go to composition, you click on add to Adobe Media Encoder queue, but you make sure you install the Adobe Media Encoder of the same year of the After Effects you are using, so for this to work properly. So as you can see, Adobe Media Encoder is being opened automatically after clicking that. So we're going to wait for it to load up. So it has successfully opened. So I'm going to click on that drop down to choose from the list of presets we have. You can choose any of the preset output presets you want. You can choose, but me, I'll be sticking to the match source medium bitrate. As you can see, then I'll click on that. That's the part where I want to save my first animation. So I'll go to my downloads and I'm going to save it here as my first text animation. So I'm going to click on save and I'm going to click on that green play button to start the rendering. So we only have just 2 seconds and I'm very sure the rendering won't be as long as the pandemic. Just sit down and watch the rendering process. So as you can see, these are the final outputs of our animation Black Friday. So you can customize this. You can just use the same technique to add any animation to your next project. It's very simple. I'm very sure this tutorial has helped you getting started with text animation in After Effects. And if you know this tutorial has actually helped you in getting started with After Effects, do not hesitate to just leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel for more content like this. Thank you, till meet next time.